Hi everybody, my name is Courtney Hodge and I'm a current MSDS student here at the University of Virginia. I'm going to introduce our next session, which is called Pathways to Data Science, Charting Your Course in a Data-Driven World. An introduction of what's to come. If you're curious to break into the world of data science, this panel is your chance to hear directly from a diverse group of data scientists from a range of backgrounds who have forged their own unique paths in this fast-growing field and are making an impact across industries. Whether you're just starting out or already studying data science, you'll walk away with practical advice on building your skills, finding opportunities, and gaining the inspiration to chart your own course in this exciting data-driven world. Here is Dr. Tashman.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, so we assembled this panel just to, I'd say, inform you all on how you can get into data science and learn a little bit about from their experiences. And so with that, I'll just say the names of the people that we're lucky to have up here, and then start asking the really hard-hitting questions that would make Barbara Walters proud. So we have Anna, we have Lyndsey, we have Christian, and we have Madelyn. And if you're not speaking, everyone else's mics will be muted. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so, and I think we'll go in that order for the questions. So my first hard-hitting question is an introductory question. This is if you could just provide, I'd say in about 3 minutes or so, just a brief introduction, talk about your role, and how you got started in data science.
Sure thing. So. Hi everyone, I'm Anna Sharma. I'm currently a data scientist at C3 AI. For those of you not familiar with the company, it's an enterprise AI company, which basically means we try to provide AI solutions to these larger companies that really need to scale AI and their machine learning algorithms to something past a Jupyter notebook or a small little demo POC that a data scientist creates. I really got into data science and from a non-traditional background. I did my BS in biomedical engineering from UVA, graduated from that in 2021. And then I did my master's in data science in 2022, really because as I was doing my undergrad degree, I was pre-med. Like many of you, I was driven to be a physician, but kind of did engineering because I believed that, I liked math, I liked science, and so what better way to serve my community, to serve medicine, by doing biomedical engineering. But as I did more extracurricular activities, like scribing at the UVA emergency department, I used to volunteer at a hospital in the telemetry department. I just saw how much health data there was, especially in the telemetry unit. There's patients constantly hooked up to these machines, but there's one person sitting at the desk trying to figure out, is someone having a heart attack? Like, that's not a valid way of approaching medicine. And then even at the emergency department, you have so many talented residents, physicians, trying to write down in their spare time these notes, and that can be used for posterity for patient health. So I really wanted to enter data science with the mission of helping ease day-to-day life for healthcare workers. And that's what I focused on when I did my capstone here at UVA. I was doing image recognition for Crohn's disease and trying to detect Crohn's disease from histopathology images. But since graduation, obviously I haven't stuck to healthcare. I worked briefly for about 1.5 years at Expedia as a machine learning scientist. But the main driver there was I've always just tried to improve myself technically, understand what is, state of the art, what can data scientists, learn that puts them at the forefront of the field. And so since then, I have migrated into my role at C3 AI, where I focus a lot on generative AI applications for the federal government and for Fed customers. And so that's where I've really been learning a lot, and hopefully in the future we'll continue to, stay at that edge of innovation in the field. Thanks.
Super. That's interesting. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, Lyndsey.
Cool. Well, that's a tough one to follow. I think a theme you'll hear, I had the opportunity to get to chat with each of the panelists for the first time right before this, is that non-traditional. I'm sure many of you know data science is an industry and even this school and this building are brand new, but really hasn't been around as something that you studied or did for all that long. So my background, I feel like, is even more non-traditional than what we just heard, and that it wasn't a thing. I am proudly a double who, and in undergrad I studied cognitive science and psychology, Graduated at a time when the economy was terrible. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd worked in SPSS a good bit with some data. I worked a lot around consumer behavior and was fascinated with it, but I didn't really want to immediately jump into a PhD program and do research in a lab. So actually at UVA, ended up doing the McIntire School of Commerce's MS in Commerce program and got to work with the lovely Emma, who I'm sure many of you know, and studied and focused on marketing and management. And I tell people that the two trendiest things I have done in my career, and I am not a trendy person, my children and my whole family will validate this for you, but the two trendiest things I've done have been fall into data science and then also remote work before it was cool or socially mandated, you can decide. But data science, actually an organization then called dunnhumby USA, recruited at McIntire, and they did analytics and insights for the Kroger company and also a lot of consumer packaged goods companies. They recruited at McIntire, and like many on-grounds interviewing experiences, they had a really limited number of spots. And for whatever reason, my resume, which was stacked full of experiences in HR operations and working at daycare centers, just wasn't that attractive to them. I don't know why, but they came, they presented in our class, and I was a crazy person and raised my hand and answered all of the questions because I was just really fascinated with the company. I wanted to work there. I don't know if you guys, if the grading system for participation is still the same, but I definitely got like a check plus that day. I talked to them afterward, and fast forward now, like over a decade, almost 15 years. I still work in a version of that. The company's now called 8451, which everyone always asks this. It's the longitude of our corporate headquarters. Data people, you know, what are you gonna do? But it's part of the Kroger company. So for those who aren't as familiar, 8451 is a retail media, data science, and insights organization. I've had a lot of different roles there over time. I was hired as an analyst and did a lot of advanced analytics working for Kroger, consumer packaged goods companies. I've even taken a stint on the client side. I've worked on the talent strategy side for technologists to actually figure out skills and roles that we need in our data science function. But most recently, I lead a really wonderful, smart, brilliant, awesome, diverse group of data scientists across 3 different areas of our business. One is our data platform program, so that's where a lot of our data assets sit. We do exploratory data analysis and even like data quality type stuff. Our labs program, which is our research and development arm, we do some high risk, high reward type of stuff to come up with the next big thing for Kroger. So I get the pleasure of working with those folks. And then last but not least, our AI enablement group, which the deafening roar of AI. I would love for someone to just tabulate how many times we say that today. But that team's remit is largely around actually helping to democratize and build out systems that enable AI's use across different teams in the organization. We have around 300 data scientists at 8451 that support Kroger. So we have some teams within AI enablement that are specializing in new AI techniques and actually partnering with those data scientists to bring them to life. Because really, the power in generative AI these days is when you kind of can double layer traditional data science and machine learning with that. So we're trying to figure out how to do that. Me personally too, I work a lot on responsible AI, which I'll get into that more with some of the questions I think we're gonna work through. But yeah, did I hit all your points?
You did. Yeah, that was very helpful. And I would have totally flubbed the name of the company. I would say 84.51 degrees or something. So thank you for
You can say
clearing that up.
Kroger.
Kroger. Thanks for that. Christian, turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a lead data scientist at Sentara Health. Sentara is in town with Martha Jefferson Hospital, but they have 12 hospitals, most in Virginia, a little bit in northern Virginia, in North Carolina. So it's a large hospital organization. And I'm also teach for the data science program, a class that I call Healthcare Data Science. And the very first class is starting with Sam, with two students here, Tom, that are taking my class. So if you're coming to this program in the 4th semester elective, you may be taking my class. So how did I get there? Let's go back to my Ph.D. I got an industrial and systems engineering. I was programming with things like MATLAB and Maple and Mathematica, and stuff that no one uses in that for. Java was like fancy, was like the, now I'm dating it roughly. And so, and then I became a professor, an assistant professor in industrial and system engineering at Virginia Tech. Did that for many years. And during that time, I got into healthcare. I got into healthcare purely by opening up a textbook and looking for the most complex socio-technical system I could find. And there was finance and healthcare. And I figured finance has enough people working on it already. Let's do healthcare. That's how I picked my application domain. Then for the next 10 years, I got more and more into healthcare and realized one has to really have a deep understanding to, as an engineer, make a contribution. You can't just make stuff up like in some other domains. I'd say in supply chain. I worked in that as well. But you can, in research, kind of just imagine some things and it works. It does not work in healthcare that well. And so I've gone really deep into healthcare, so to the point that actually I switched from engineering to Department of Health Administration, which is MHA students, so people getting MBAs in a business school, so there's a healthcare business school. And that was an enrichment at VCU. So I became then their one expert on everything, basically engineering, math, analytics. And so suddenly, and it was around 2016, suddenly, the window opened up, and they're quite excitement around, we call it analytics back then, but data science now came about. And I realized that I don't know much about that actually, a little bit of stats, but I was a statistician, and so I really just had to learn about it. And as a professor, you just can't go back to school and get a master's degree. That doesn't work. So you have to figure it out. But with data science, you need your hands on data to actually experience and do it. So I realized after a while that the best way to do it is actually to do it in a company and do it with a hospital. So I left academia and started as a data scientist at UVA Health, just sort of a few yards from here. And that's where I learned to become a data scientist. And I initially thought I'll take that knowledge and go back to academia, but I liked it so much that I stayed in the industry and just cherry picked by coming back here to these events and teach classes. And continue my journey in healthcare. And now I'm at Sentara as a lead data scientist. Sentara, it's an organization that only had formed a data science group 2 years ago. Before they had a lot of analysts and things, but machine learning and all of that was new to them. So it's in the big 30,000 people company with billions and billions of dollars of revenue, but you're a little entrepreneurial startup within that framework and trying to get a machine learning solution, to patients, to physicians, to nurses.
Great, thanks so much.
Cool. I'm Madelyn. I'm a first-year doctoral student. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out this mic. Let's see. I started at the school only a few months ago, so I'm pretty new. I don't have a formal research advisor or anything yet, but my interests lie in algorithm transparency and fairness. How I got here, I was an econ student in undergrad. I really liked studying human behavior from a quantitative perspective. I liked seeing something as a graph and then also as an equation and then also observing it with my own eyes. So I just followed this econ path until it got really annoying. Once we were solving problems about two firms around a circular lake, I was like, I'm over this actually. And that's when I found a minor in data analytics. Really liked those classes that I was taking, and then I graduated in 2020, so COVID. So my first job was working in portfolio management, realized I hated that, and then I knew there was more I wanted to learn in data science, so I joined a boot camp for a little bit, and then I landed a job at Ubisoft, so I was doing data science for Ubisoft is a video games company, and we were working on making a first-person shooter game. And so I was working with a lot of designers and engineers and artists, which was super fun. And I learned so much technical knowledge. And then after a few years there, I realized that my real passion lies with applying these data science tools to societal problems, specifically those related to equity. And so academia felt like the best place for me to develop my data science expertise and apply those to areas that I'm passionate about.
Great, thanks very much. Let's see, maybe just to change gears a little bit, I'll ask, this one. So around skills, I'll ask you to talk about technical and non-technical things that you think will be essential for entering in data science, but I suspect a lot of you might say the same thing about the technical skills. I think what probably the non-technical, I think we'll probably have more to say. That'll be interesting. So let's go with that. The technical and non-technical skills that you think are helpful for entering data science. If you want to talk a little bit about, for graduate work, that could make sense. So we'll go to Anna first, and then again.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start off with the non-technical, just because maybe that's probably something that will differ more. But in my current role, we're a fairly small company, and especially with federal, it's maybe 100 people in this office, 10 of which are data scientists, 5 of which are contract data scientists. There's really only 5 of us in the actual company. And so a lot of the burden comes down during these projects, not to the actual technical implementation and any project or contract that comes to us, but it's really coordinating with different groups, whether it be, and we, again, are a product company. So we're not just thinking about, okay, the back end, the data engineering, or, like the machine learning, like ops, like that is all kind of inherent to building a large scale enterprise application. But it's more like, let's talk to the client. Let's really understand what their problem is. And then at the, when we're conceptualizing a problem, not just thinking about, okay, the technical workflow, but what's the user workflow, right? Like if we're thinking about a UI that is going to inherit all these different machine learning models, how do we want our users to interface with it? What kinds of questions are they going to pose to these generative AI applications? What kinds of insights can we generate? And going to the point that you had mentioned, it's not just about generative AI, really. And I guess this gets lost a lot of the times in current conversation. It's how can we really enable traditional machine learning models to interface with the generative AI to provide clarity and the visualizations that we provide to the user, and kind of bring to the forefront these insights that might have been taken them months to extract. So I think being able to communicate effectively with both internal and external stakeholders who are technical and non-technical, I think at the end of the day, that ability allows you to present your solutions effectively to the end user, but at the same time also execute it correctly and to its fullest potential. So I think that's my non-technical kind of best skill to have. In terms of technical, I think I've always been a big proponent of the fact that if you really understand the mathematical intuition and the standards behind the models that you're implementing, you will be able to pick up any new technology much, much faster. And I've seen this kind of pay dividends. I know a lot of the times, especially for the current MSDS students, you guys take Bayesian machine learning. And I know it's not the coolest or easiest class to take, but at the end of the day, it is a class that has made me the happiest because A, Dr. Brown, who taught the class to me, was phenomenal. But B, I think it's providing me the mathematical rigor that I needed in order to understand some of these more complex models. And so I think that's just my biggest advice is I know it's not the most fun and it requires extra work at the end of the day, but do that dirty work and it'll pay off.
I remember I'd asked my advisor when he went into industry, he worked at a hedge fund for a long time. I said, did you ever apply these really intricate models and things like that? And he said, not as much as you think, but it definitely made me think critically about things, and I was able to really get deeper and understand things really well. And Christian, you were kind of talking about that too with the systems work that you did. Well, I'll stop blabbing and turn it over to Lyndsey for their answer.
I feel like we're gonna have to stop letting Anna go first and maybe change it up because she's stealing all the thunder. No, it's great. I would basically just say +1 or yes and to everything she said. For me, it's really about the intersectionality of those technical and non-technical skills. On the tech front, just to touch on that really quickly, what I would say is really that learning agility. And things that I look for are the ability to actually show that you can transfer that skill. I don't really care if you prefer R or Python or something else, but have you shown that you can demonstrate the ability to learn and relearn new technical implementations and applications of that, I think is a big one. I'm a huge proponent of kind of the softer side of things. I think what you said about leaning into things like Bayesian statistics and even linear algebra, totally key. You need to be able to understand for sure what you're trying to do, and I think that skill is lost. But what I would also say is that early in my career, someone said to me, specifically in industry, execution beats brilliance every time. So if you aren't able to tell a story, visualize it, influence it, communicate the value to someone that's in the seat to actually make a decision, it's not really going to go anywhere. So those communication skills are huge. At the core of what we hire for in data science, it's actually, of course, technical skills, and we're looking for experience with data and programming, hacking, stats, math, all that good stuff. But really, it's three things. It's collaborators, it's learners, and it's problem solvers. Because the tech's gonna change, and the problems you encounter are going to change. But if you have those three at the core, those are the people that I have seen be the most successful.
All right. Thank you very
Making
much.
it increasingly more challenging to add something to that. So +2 and I think good technical skills get you the job, and the soft skill get you your career and help you advance. Right? It's a sort of, and when you're in school, what you should work on is learning something that you couldn't learn outside the classroom, and that's math, because it's hard. So do take all the hard classes here, and I'm speaking as a professor now. Take all the hard classes here. You know, the history of the US, you can take a class on that, but you can also just read a book on it. So why take a class? If there's other alternatives, you know. So I encourage you to torture yourself, to even if it's torture for you, you know, for that. That's why you're here. I know that's the hard work, and it will benefit you for all the good reasons that were said earlier. And you know, in terms of the soft skills, I think, you know, being able to, you know, make a good slide deck and communicate that, I think, is the bigger thing. But oftentimes we do it via a slide deck or presentation. Is an immensely important skill. And I hadn't realized as a professor, you have to do this all the time. You teach 2-3 times a week. You give talks, and so I think about this a lot. And when I switched to industry, I noticed that my industry peers didn't get as many opportunities to learn and train that. So as naturally, they don't have as much experience. So unless they're like magically talented, they can't be as good. So take these opportunities to learn, you know, these principles here whenever you can, and you know, put yourself in the shoe of the recipient, what they want to hear, what's the audience thinking about, and these are some of the, and I put this into my healthcare data science class even, and I taught it to my engineering students. I keep teaching it because it's so fundamental. It has been in any of all my classes, some of these principles.
I'm glad you plugged your class. I was about to do it for you. That's great. Okay, Madelyn, we'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah, I guess in summary, well, I think I'll start with soft skills because I think that informs the hard skills. I think the most important things are being curious, being really determined to solve problems, and then also being confident in yourself. I think those things need to all work well together for you to progress in this field, because you're constantly applying math or some new programming skill to like new applications. There's a lot of newness in this field, so you need to be able to say, okay, I took that very hard stats course. I was able to overcome understanding something that I didn't know before. And using that to, I guess, just reassure yourself that you're capable of learning new things. And so then with regards to technical, I would say in undergrad, I did most of my programming in R. And then in my job, it was mainly in SQL and a little bit of Python. And now here it's split class by class. So I don't think there's one specific language that is key to succeeding in data science. I think it's the soft skills of being equipped to say, okay, I've tackled other hard things. I can learn a new thing and feel good about it.
I'm glad you said confidence. Actually, I was talking the other day to some master students, and was talking about some of the work I used to do in fair lending. And we would find things that were, maybe coming up that could pose ethical challenges, and it could be uncomfortable to talk about it, and it would be hard to push those things forward, to push people to make changes. So the first thing I would always suggest is make sure your analysis is correct, and then have courage, right? Because there are going to be times where maybe nobody's tapping you on the shoulder and saying, you need to speak up about this, but you'll know that you should speak up about it. So, have that confidence, and confidence breeds confidence. So maybe on that note, I'm just going to ask one or two more questions, because then I want to open it up to the audience to ask some questions. So I'll ask two questions. One of them, well, actually, yeah. The first one of the, maybe you could talk about a big challenge that you faced in your career, or biggest challenge, and how you overcame it. Yeah. And
Want to go the other way?
yeah, why don't we start with Madelyn now?
Okay.
I'm sorry to hit you twice,
biggest
but I
challenge
feel.
of my career. I mean, I guess I would reiterate the confidence thing. I remember I was presenting at like a company-wide meeting at Ubisoft, and I was pretty confident in an analysis, and someone that was a bit higher up pushed back on it, and I had to I was freaking out because I was 23, 24, and this is a very senior person, but I was confident in my analysis, and so I was able to push back on it politely, and that was a big moment for me because it empowered me to speak up later on at the company. It was a pretty early on situation. And then I guess another one, I guess it's not really like a technical problem, but I think just staying focused on what's important to you. I was far along at Ubisoft, and it's a great company to work at, and a lot of people that work there stay there for, I think the average time is like 8 to 10 years. So I was having a good time there, but I had to consider like what I really wanted to do with my life and with my career. And so having the moments of clarity to ask yourself if this is the direction you want to keep going or if you want to pivot, I think that's like a lifelong challenge that I'm sure everyone can probably relate to.
Yeah, thanks for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think a career pivot. For me it would be that as well. I was a professor. Everything was going well, so I have a good job, and I'm going into something I have no idea about. It's very risky. I know it's the future, but I don't know if it's my future. Is it going to work out? I don't even know how to program Python yet. I have to figure that out. There's a lot of sort of things you have to figure out, but hard decisions are the ones that we have to think deeply about and then make hard choices. But if you make the right hard choice, this is what life is about. Where you have lunch, you can roll the dice and your life won't change. It doesn't matter. The hard decisions are the ones you have to work on, and sometimes you do have to make the jump. And that's would be my sort of encouragement for that. So it worked out for me, but yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Liz.
Biggest challenge. I don't have necessarily like a clear project or moment, but I mean, I guess, and it's an ongoing one. If I were able to sit up here and smile and be like, and I overcame it and it was perfect. I mean, it's honestly something I still deal with day in and day out. I told you all about my background. I guess a lot of people that have been in data science for a while have non-traditional ones, but I was not technical, if you will, coming in. And so I struggled with confidence in that way for a really long time. All of the skills that I have in terms of applied programming, I learned on the job. I came in with 3 days of SQL coding and some SPSS. So getting exposure and experience to R and Python. And it's actually, it's kind of refreshing to be on a panel where a lot of people are echoing that confidence, because I feel like in technical fields, a lot of the people I work with have the opposite problem. There's a lot of overconfidence. And so that's been a struggle for me. I mean, also, I feel like I'd be remiss not to say, as a female in technology, just feeling like I had the right to be there and to call myself technical. I don't know how many of you subscribe to or like Adam Grant, but love him. I think even just that notion of imposter syndrome, which I know is a bit tired, but I really love his take on it in the space of instead of sitting there and thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything, and it's only a matter of time until everyone finds out, I've really had to push myself, and this happened when I was 23 and 33, and we can talk later about how many years are on there now, but it's actually only a matter of time until I learn it. I may not know it yet, but I'll get there. And it's been a challenge for me before. It continues to be one, but it's something that, again, back to that learning agility piece, is something I feel really proud about and kind of continue to push forward on.
Yeah, thanks for that, Anna.
Yeah, kind of building upon elements of what everyone has said so far. I was very lucky in the fact that making that career pivot from being pre-med, where I had already applied to medical school, gotten into medical school, decided not to go to med school, was the easy part for me. I felt confident in the decision that I liked data science. It was the fact that once I had gotten that first job, and I felt very comfortable. I was like, I know where I need to be. I'll just wait for that career growth to happen. And then I saw, other teams within the company doing really cool things that I just wasn't able to do because, again, like large companies, everyone has a role, every job or every org has a task. And so I would see people and be like, I want to do that. Why can't I get to do that? And that was the biggest challenge for me. It was dealing with that, I guess, jealousy or that envy that I would feel. And I think just being proactive is the biggest way that I've been able to kind of handle it. I realized, okay, if I'm feeling a certain way about a project, that probably means that I am interested. So why don't I do something about it? So I saw people doing like sentiment analysis for, some not promotion, but for like listings for ads at Expedia. And so I was like, oh, that probably means that I like NLP. So let me start to learn that. And then that got me into generative AI. And then that got me into my current role. And so now I feel fulfilled. But I think, again, like you don't want to feel content because where comfort comes no growth. And so I think that the biggest challenge is like learning how to tackle that envy that you may feel. Whether any career seasoned people feel like, oh, I want a promotion. Why am I not getting a promotion? And then being able to do that introspection, I think, is the best thing to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said the comfort. I'll just say very quickly that one of the challenges that I faced, I'd say, was feeling after I'd kind of done things and looked at the same type of data for a long time, where do I go next? And feeling a little bit worn out of, okay, I've trained so many models. What do I do after, X years? And then I think what a lot of you are talking about is finding that there are bits of our day, bits of our job that kind of resonate with us, that make that day very exciting. And the thing that resonated with me, I realized, was helping people to develop. And that's when it opened a door for me to manage people, to lead people, to coach people. So, and that has extended my career to today and brought me here. So I'll shut up about myself and ask one final question to you all. And that is advice for students. If you can go back in time, given what you've known and your experience, what do you think would be something that would be valuable that you could tell these students?
Sorry.
And we'll go with, here and then out.
Yeah, going back to what Chris had said, which was take the hard classes when you have the opportunity. I think, again, going back to my background, I was so focused on getting all A's so I could go to medical school, get into the best medical school possible, that I was always scared to take these really hard classes, whether it be economics or whether it be physics or really traditional math classes. I was scared because I was like, oh, it's going to mess up my GPA. Why am I and then once you graduate, you realize, oh, that was a missed opportunity. And so if I had taken those hard classes, I probably would have been able to vet my interests much earlier on in my career and had to do less work to pivot and do that hustle at the end, or rather at the beginning of my career. But the point being that just be conscious of all the different opportunities, regardless of whether or not they align with what you think your current trajectory or career path is, just stay open-minded.
That's great advice, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, building on open-mindedness, I would say at an institution like the University of Virginia, there's a lot of really high-minded achievers and people that like to script out and craft their plans. If you had asked me in the early 2000s, will you be a data science leader? I don't know, I'd be like, what? So I say be open to opportunities too. If you get a chance, take it. It was actually kind of a little personal epithet. It was devastating to my family and my then boyfriend, now husband at the time, that I took an opportunity in the armpit of America in Cincinnati, Ohio, to go work in data science. But it just felt right. And I think leaning into those things, getting different opportunities and experiences, that is maybe one thing that I'd love to think about doing if I were to go back and do it again. Try different things. That's probably it for me.
I would say, don't give up. And this is you're in a degree, and some of you might come at a point where it gets hard, and I'll encourage you to get that degree. And I think I was in college. I had a phase where I wanted to not stop that. Finishing up a Ph.D. is painful. At the end, you just have to show up. And so I was lucky that at every moment I had friends, family, myself, just pulling myself to over the finish line. And then it's all good. So pull yourself over the finish line. Yeah.
It might just be one experiment away between failure and success. Right?
Yeah.
You just don't know it. So doing hard things requires not giving up. Yeah. Okay, Madelyn, what do you think?
I mean, all great stuff. I think in the same mind of utilize the opportunities as utilize mentors. I think all the professors at the school really do want to help you. And they want to help you in a really honest and organic way where they have arrived at this career because they enjoy fostering that in you. And I think in careers, there are a lot of great bosses, and a lot of them want you to move on and be successful and stuff, but I don't think it's quite as organic as the mentors that you're going to get at the school.
I'll just recommend a book to people. It's called Crucial Conversations. Raise your hand if you've read that book. Yeah. Anyone else? Sometimes I'm talking to people and they will take out that book and show me what is a crucial conversation. It's something that's high stakes, right? So it's very important. Both people feel very strongly and they disagree. So it might be you were hoping to get promoted and you didn't, and you're going to go talk to your manager about it. So there are times in life where you have to have a tough conversation. You can't sweep it under the rug. And it's very important that you have that conversation in the right way, that you don't destroy a relationship, right? A manager or something, and we might, and they talk about the fact that, these things need to happen, and a lot of times they're just done poorly. And the book goes through and gives examples. This is what most people do, and it fails. This is what people should do. It feels very counterintuitive, but again, when we talked about having a job versus having a career, to be able to move up, you'll need to show that you can do things, and you need to show that, frankly, that people like you and they want to work with you. So I wish I read that book a long, long time ago. My mom felt the same way when I introduced her to that book. And she's 45 now. So Crucial Conversations. I have no horse in the race other than it's just a fabulous book. I had about 52 other questions on here and in this folder, but I'm not going to ask them instead. Well, maybe I will just say, if anyone else on here has anything else they'd like to share with the students, we could kind of go around. You just jump in if you have something you'd like to say, and then I just ask the audience to just pepper us with questions. Just be kind. You could be plugging a different course or anything.
No, I mean.
Ready for your
Yeah, I want to hear what you all have to say. If nothing else, too, I'd love to say thank you. It is not lost on me that we are standing between you and a celebration, aka happy hour, and a lot of people, data scientists, business students, engineers, love to get the chance to talk about themselves. So just thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks. All right, we'll open it up for questions. Yes?
My first question is that, actually I have a very hardship in building my people skill, like my communication skill and my collaboration skill with my boss and my colleagues. So I want to know how to start. Like if I join a new company and I don't know anything about the company and I don't know anything about the technology and I don't know anything about my clients, and if I propose something everybody else disagree, how do I speak up and how do I persuade my bosses?
Start off. So I was in a very similar position. I had, again, as I mentioned, I started working at this company end of February. Entirely new domain for me. I had never worked on generative AI before. It was focused more on like traditional machine learning. And the way that I really was able to get that platform where I was able to communicate with people was, you start off by just trying to leverage all your resources, like read blogs, whatever. But also being able to freely share that. So I would send articles, even if I thought they were like very basic, I would share them with my manager. And I would say, hey, I read this. I thought it was really interesting. Would love your take on it. And that built a dialogue to the point where now he sends me articles and he goes, Anna, what do you think? And at the same time, because he knows that I'm able to communicate about these more technical concepts, he feels comfortable letting me lead conversations with clients. And so being able to build that dialogue just in a private setting with someone that you would like to have that relationship with, I think that really helps kind of scale. And then you can get connections out of that, you can get more exposure. So that's kind of my advice.
Great.
If we're in the business of plugging books, I would say another one is The First 90 Days, which is probably valuable to anybody in any industry as well. But I actually can't give an amazing synopsis of it, but the first 30 days of that are really around listening. And if I were you going into a new organization, I'd ask a lot of questions. I'd also watch. You're going to see people that are really effective communicators and storytellers, and talk to them. I mean, I told you right before any of you all asked questions, people love to talk about themselves. So if you go to someone and say, hey, I think you're a really great storyteller. I'd love to know what your secret is. Like, how can we partner? What are some books you enjoy? What are some things? So it kind of goes into that mentoring comment that you made earlier as well. But that'd be what I'd recommend.
Yeah, I had already planned to say, listen, start by listening. That was already, so 100% agree with that. I didn't know it was in the book, so I need to read that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I have to add. I think that's
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
No worries. Next question. Yeah, we have on this side here.
I just wanted to ask, how do you guys deal with like slow points or running into like blockades when you're in your researches and like developing solutions?
I can answer that. I mean, as a faculty, as a researcher, that's basically what you deal with on a daily basis, like blockages and things, and then I'll leave my office, go to a coffee shop, do something else, change the scenery, and I advise my PhD students to do that as well. And why I wanted to give them more than one work, so they can actually switch and say, all right, work on this, and you get stuck. It's okay for you to take a break for the rest of the day if you want. You know, we're not make widgets, right? We're looking for solutions. You need that proof, that code, that thing. And so it's finding out for you what gives you creativity. So I found early on, and then later research backed that up, that for creativity, coffee shops are very good. And it's that sound that distracts you, that gives you like new ideas. Whereas like if I need to focus, I need everything to be quiet. The smallest sound in the house like drives me crazy. And so you have to learn that about yourself and yeah. So learn about yourself and change things up.
Maybe kind of building off what Chris mentioned, like I don't do pure research, but applied, so to speak. And for me, it's not so much like change of scenery as it is change of domain. So a lot of times, like I get really stuck in a certain domain, and I know there's like probably a more general, like a general purpose solution, but I'm trying to address a problem in a singular domain. So what I'll do is just topic switch, right? Which is what you were mentioning. Focus on reading papers in another domain. What is their problem? And maybe like that way you're able to think about something in a different way than you had it previously. And it's about, like, for me, at least personally, it's more understanding like the technical motivation. So if I can understand what was the problem and the technical solution, like I can kind of piece together, okay, how can I apply this to my research? How can I apply this to my end solution? And that's kind of the way I manage, like kind of distracting myself.
I would say also just remind yourself that it's a marathon, not a sprint, being a data scientist. And so I think if you're making progress or not, and sometimes progress does require 10 hours or longer, and sometimes you're on your 9th hour and you're like, I could just spend the time here and say that I'm doing something, but I'm not being productive, I'm not learning, I'm not open to changing my way of thinking right now. So sometimes it is best to walk away, but I feel like only you know for yourself what that is.
Any questions on this side?
So my question is that how do you make yourself stand out as an applicant for the program and for the PhD dissertation? How do you kind of narrow down from your qualifying researches to your dissertations?
What was the second part of the question? Sorry.
How do you narrow down your qualifying research topic or your area of research to your dissertation?
Well, okay, so I am a first year, so let me preface with that. I don't think I'm the best person to ask on that. As far as standing out, It's very flattering. I think this school specifically is very responsive to authenticity. I think we're having this panel because we've all come to data science at UVA or from UVA through very different pathways. And so I think there's not like one right thing to say or one, job title to have had or anything. I think the most important thing, and you said PhD, so I think the most important thing is to ask yourself what you want out of a PhD. Like for me, when I was feeling really stuck at my job at Ubisoft, I toyed with the idea of getting a master's for a while, and I really interrogated what that would bring me. And I thought that, okay, I might be able to level up my skill set and then go back into the job market. And then what job would I then want, and how would that be having the social impact that I'm saying that is important to me? And so for me, the PhD program at UVA truly felt like the best place for me to fulfill my passion. But I think what that looks like is different for everybody. So the way to stand out is to be yourself. I hate that, but I do think it's kind of true.
So I'm not sure if I got the full question. Were you asking how to figure out your topic, your dissertation topic, or narrow it down? No. I see. Yeah, and I think so. I think that you have an advisor that would help you with that. But if I were your advisor, I would say start reading, broad and wide, and then you do the funnel of that, and your advisor with the experience can help you with saying that's a good idea, that's not a good idea. Like for example, when I did my PhD, I was like, oh, I want to do supply chain management. My advisor's like, everyone's doing that, don't do it. So that was his advice. So I'm like, okay, good. So that's great advice. I still think it's interesting, but but not for So this is and so you read and you channel it down, and actually that part of that process of the journey is extremely painful if you're doing it yourself, but extremely valuable, because you're going to redo that again and again. That skill of figuring out what is important. So see it as part of the journey and not just the end itself.
Okay.
So it sounds like everyone in the panel pivoted from their original field in some sort of way. How did you all reconcile leaving behind a field that you enjoyed or found interesting at some point in time, even though data was also interesting to you?
I don't think you have to. I'm a big advocate and champion of the career lattice, not the ladder. And for me, I don't know if data science is my last stop. I told you all that I started in psych and even in HR. I found a ton of fulfillment in things like talent strategy for technical talent. I've even done a stint and stopped back there, and I still could go back there one day. I think investing in some of the hard technical skills and even just getting experience in industry still continues to open doors versus close them. But it is hard. You do have to make choices. You can't do all the things all the time. But yeah, I guess my short answer is I don't feel like I've closed it yet. And I still feel like I could go back and do something different if I wanted to.
Yeah, I probably agree to that. For me, somewhere in the back of my head, I know that at the end of the day, healthcare and technology is where my passion lies. And so what I'm thinking about is I'm trying to gain all the technical skills necessary so that when I feel like I have identified a problem that really resonates with me, I'm equipped to handle it. And I think that's kind of my way of thinking. It's again, as you were mentioning, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Especially as a new grad, you're still trying to figure out what you enjoy, and you're trying to kind of wrestle with the opportunities you're given, but also the ones you want. And so you just have to kind of weave your way and pick up and learn things where you can. And then at the end of the day, everyone will probably reach their desired end state.
In situations when I found it challenging for me to leave academia. So because it's an identity, and I realized then that I had to convince myself it's just a job, not an identity. And that's a journey. It took a while, you know. I remember meeting someone on vacation and at the pool shortly after, and they're like, "What do you do?" I'm a data scientist, but I was a professor before, you know. So I'm like, okay, I got to stop saying that, you know. Like, I'm a data scientist, so it takes a little bit adjustment, and so it helped me to tell myself it's a job, not an identity.
I started, my background was in math, applied math, and I applied it to finance, and then at one point I kind of saw data science burgeoning and saw that there was a variety of things. I remember talking to a recruiter, and they said, "Well, you're an applied mathematician, you're not a data scientist." And I said, "That's nonsense." And so don't just see a label, I'm going to use the data science term, don't just see your label as being something that's fixed, right? You'll add more labels. And, you know, don't confine yourself. You're a problem solver. I hope that once you open that door, and many of us have opened that door, of using data to make decisions, you probably will want to keep doing that, I would imagine, right? You probably won't one day wake up and say, you know, this data stuff's not very useful. I'm not going to solve problems that way anymore. So I don't think you're closing that door. I think you're just going to open lots of other doors. And you might find your passion, and it might be that technology and certain things changed, and you have different opportunities that you might move into different areas. Really want to do something in healthcare, but it wasn't possible to solve those sorts of problems back then, but now the technology exists, or wasn't able to go into that industry, you know, before, but now I've done these sorts of projects. So look for things, but make sure that you're really doing them because your heart's in it. And that's how you'll compete. You'll compete because people will see that you'll join that organization, you're going to light it on fire, and you're going to solve things, and you're going to make people look great, and you're going to solve problems. That's what they're looking for. When you're interviewing, people are asking themselves, the hiring manager's asking themselves, is this person going to help me get promoted, right? Is this person going to help me make money? That's what they're going to be asking. Not is this just going to be someone here who's hanging around and punching a clock, right? So that would be my advice. Other questions?
Maybe one more question before we wrap up. Anyone?
Okay, couple.
So we've had a few book recommendations already, but if there was, aside from the few that we talked about, if there was one book or article that you would strongly recommend young professionals, anyone in data science, people new to the field read, what would it be?
Mine might be a bit more utilitarian, but when I graduated, I bought this book called Ace the Data Science Interview. It's written by another UVA grad. That book is phenomenal. It has provided everything that you need to do well in interviews, and so I'm constantly pushing it to other people. Never failed me thus far, so yeah, go get it.
I think it's a #1 best-selling book on Amazon under the data science category.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's awesome.
I have two for you. So a current one, if you want to look about the political and so the social, political, cultural implications of what AI will hold for the future, I would recommend Nexus, that just came out by what's his name? Harari. He wrote *Sapiens* as well. So that book just came out a few weeks ago. It's about basically AI. And then one that is maybe 2-3 years old on a really good overview on machine learning and AI, but by a non-technical person, but really well researched, well explained. It's called The Alignment Problem by Brian Christian. So I read all my books as audiobooks. I listen to them while I walk, and I think I listened to that last summer, and I learned a lot about data science, machine learning, and AI, just sort of from the overview, but it goes really into depth, but not in a technical way.
I was going to say, I haven't read Nexus, but I saw it and I was like, oh, I love *Sapiens*, so that's cool. I guess additionally, this isn't like a fun read necessarily, but when I was working in my finance job and I was trying to figure out how to pivot into data science with no data science experience, I had this book, I think it's called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. I think that's what it's actually called. And I basically just made projects for myself to make things more efficient in my portfolio management role so that when I was interviewing, I could at least speak to something. So if you're pretty confident that data science is what you want to do, don't let any traditional barriers to entry like hold you back. Create projects, have something to show for what you can do, and yeah.
So thanks for all the questions. Thanks for your attention. And thank you all. Thank you, Madelyn, Christian, Lyndsey, and Anna. Appreciate it.
All right, another round of applause to our panelists. So my name is Prince Afriye. I'm an associate professor here. I'm also the director for the residential master's program. I'm here to close, and everybody likes closure. So it will take only a few minutes because I know I'm standing in front of you and the networking reception. So I'll just start off. How many of you learned something new today? That's great. I did too. So from exploring transformative power of AI in the keynote conversation, to all the diverse breakout sessions, to all the hands-on workshops, today's event showcased the vast potential for data science to drive innovation and solve complex challenges. We hope you're leaving here feeling energized and equipped with new perspective, skills, and most importantly, the connections that you made today. So I first want to thank our keynote speakers, our panelists, our workshop leaders, our breakout session hosts, and for sharing all their insights. So thank you all one more time. To our industry partners, Capital One, LMI, Noble Ridge Foundation, thank you for your ongoing support to the School of Data Science, in particular to this particular event. Your commitment to fostering data science education, research, and collaboration is invaluable. So thank you so much. To our volunteers, our student ambassadors, our staff, I especially want to single out Jen Bowler for putting all this together. I don't know how long it takes to put such an event together, but she masterminded everything in the background there. So thank you so much. I also want to acknowledge our first-year majors who are in our first in a bachelor's degree in data science for showing up. How many of you are still here? A few, okay. Our residential master's students, they're up there. I see a lot of them up there, a lot of them over there too. Our PhD students, how many PhDs? I count one over there. Oh, two, okay. And most importantly, our online students. I've been here, so how many online students are still remaining? Whoa, look at that. Look at that. I've been here for a year. You never run into an online student. So today, there was more than 50 of them showing up today. So we are incredibly grateful. We have our new building. This is your home too. Anytime you're in Charlottesville, come see us. Come walk over here. Most importantly, come say hello. I know there's a lot of online instructors too. Let's see by show of hand who are still here. Very good. Yeah, thank you so much for also coming. We really appreciate it. I know that for some of you who earned your stickers, you have some T-shirts. I think it's displayed over there. So if you earned those stickers, I'm just reminding you to get the T-shirts before you leave. And make sure you connect with people on LinkedIn, via email, in person. You made a lot of good connections today, so make sure you act on it. And we look forward to seeing you next year, the Datapalooza event. And here's to being inspiring the next generation of data leaders. I don't have a champagne glass, but thank you all. Enjoy the event. So I think the networking event is over here. Is it outside or no? No, inside. Okay. All right. Thank you all.